I took 2 semesters with him. I took it in the fall and spring. And then the spring class is really where this started. So he taught In Motion, Africans Americans in the United States. It was a history and art cross-listed class. And for my final project, I created a board game called the Harlem's Renaissance, and it was based off of the Game of Life. And with that, I was inspired to do something like this for my internship, because the internship was passed along to me after I took the class, and I had connected with Benny Roberts, the executive director at Hallie Q. Brown Community Center, and he was like just ecstatic about like me being on board with his team. And so the idea came across with Roblox after I found out that he already had a board game for the Rondo community. It's called Rondo-Opoly. And I just didn't want to make another board game if they already had a board game. So I decided, okay, how can I like still do the game but not do a board game? Like, how is that going to work? And I remember as a kid, I used to play Roblox a lot. And I remember that you can create Roblox games for free. And I was like, what if I did a Roblox game? Now, this felt a little ambitious for me because I never made a Roblox game before. I played Roblox games but never made a game. And so when Benny Roberts had told me, have you ever made a Roblox game? I told him no. He was like, do you know how to make one? I said no, but I'm gonna learn. And so throughout the 10 weeks during the summer, I learned how to create a Roblox game. And with that, I was able to digitalize their history of the Rondo neighborhood. And so a little description about the Rondo-Verse as you see up on the projector. The Rondo-Verse is a digital, multi-dimensional history exhibit of the historic St. Paul, Minnesota stored Rondo community. The game immerses you in the pillars of the community through time, serving as a gallery walkthrough, and connects you to the vibrancy of the Rondo neighborhood after the installation of the interstate highway, which is I-94. The highway that was meant to destroy the community only evolved it. Walk through the neighborhood in each dimension and experience the Rondo-Verse for yourself. Try to find key historical figures and clues for deeper learning. And this experience was made in partnership with the Hallie Q. Brown Community Center and Macalester College. So without further ado, let's jump right into what the Rondo-Verse is all about. And the cover art and all was created by Benny Roberts. He's also an artist, so he enjoyed doing this with me. So it has a little music, but I'm gonna turn it down. So once you load in your character, you're faced with what is called Old Rondo. So this side of the whole setup is Old Rondo. And what I wanted to do with this game was I wanted to bridge old and past together. And in order to do so, I took aspects of Old Rondo before the interstate highway came in, then used the highway to bridge old and present day Rondo. And then once you go across the highway, you are entered in present day Rondo. So I wanted to take the negative connotation with the bridge and turn it into something positive as a bridge itself, not something that destroyed the community. Although we know that it did destroy the community, it's just, I guess it was a better way of like portraying it rather than it being so sad and negative. And so with the character, you're allowed to move around, free roam the game. And we're gonna start here with the old Hallie Q. Brown buildings. Now, most of these buildings are renderings from Google Images, so I literally just looked at a Google image and built this literally brick by brick based off of like all the things. So if I was in ROBLOX Studio, I could have showed it how, but with the time, I want to be respectful of it. So pretty much I used like blank walls to create the boundaries, and then like had little different pre-assets that were created already to add them in. But all the exterior was my doing. There wasn't really like presets for like Hallie Q. Brown because it's a little niche community that is not like out there for somebody to create a preset for. So when we walk up to the building, you have like what you would see on a Google image of what old Hallie Q looks like. And I was told by an elder that this part that is like projecting out coming towards you wasn't actually there when it first was created. It came a little bit later. So Hallie Q. Brown was founded in 1929. So this little out projection was not there beforehand, but it was there maybe like a year or two later after it was founded. And the first character you see out here, these are called non-playable characters or NPCs, is Myrtle Carden. And Myrtle Carden was the first executive director of Hallie Q. Brown, so all the way back in 1929, and we wanted to pay respects and homage to her as the first woman of Hallie Q. Brown. And then when you go inside the building, you're faced with what the Google image rendering is of it. So literally I just took my iPad, looked at the image of it, and then recreated it in Roblox. And when your character collides with this, it tells you a little blurb about what it is. So people are not just looking at the image being like, what is this? So then every time you hit it, if you didn't catch it the first time, you can do it like multiple times, it will pop up a little blurb and tell you. So it pretty much is saying that like Hallie Q. Brown was founded in 1929 to support the growing Black community of St. Paul, established to promote social harmony and help people find adequate like resources within the neighborhood, because there was not many resources catered to African Americans, so that neighborhood was really integral for them. So when the highway came through, it was detrimental. And then next we have another non-playable character, Alice Sims Onke. I believe she worked alongside Myrtle Carden during this time. And what you see in this corner is a little kitty corner, because Hallie Q. Brown also had early care child services. So like a lot of kids, like I remember the elders telling me during those focus group meetings I had when I was showing them the development, they're like, I remember being like one of the first kids to be a part of that daycare center at Hallie. And it was amazing because like you can see them kind of like come alive when they see these things, and it was so beautiful when I was showing them. And then there's more images, and so this image is supposed to like show the Hallie Q. Browns playing basketball, archery. I'm gonna go through them quickly. So they were playing basketball here, they were doing archery there. Here, this is the hollow. It's a modern day rendering of it, the old pictures, which is a funny story is that Roblox doesn't like when you put humans in here. Like if you have a picture of you and they don't like it, so they will try to ban you, and I got banned multiple times, so I had to get appeals for that. But it worked out, I got them appealed, and we moved forward. And so we had to use satellite imaging to represent the hollow, so like it would be right here where this patch of like trees are. And what it is that it was an ice rink during the winter time, so they would like flood the area, and then it will froze over, and then the kids and whoever in the community would ice skate on it. And so all these images you see here are supposed to help give it like a museum gallery walkthrough kind of vibe. So like your character is going through each image, is learning different things about it, and like each image again has this blurb, so you're not looking at the image wondering what it is. This is the Union Gospel Overboys Club. Even though it says Overboys, it was for both boys and girls to go to. And then this is the Perfect Ashmere Lodge, which is like a fraternity lodge. And then lastly over here, this is the YWCA. And here, that's where Hallie Cal was founded. It was founded in the basement of the YWCA, which was, I didn't know that, which is pretty cool. And then over here, this is another aspect of Hallie Q. Brown, the food shelves. They, since the beginning, they were helping the community, giving out food for the community. And it wasn't even African Americans, it was also immigrants from different countries who were in the neighborhood as well. And it's been a thing, and it's still going strong today. And a lot of people go to it. Like during the summertime, I saw a lot of people come in and out for the food shelf, which is really cool. And then after you're done in this building, we go to the next. And so I had to create centers because, again, the elders were so ecstatic about it. I couldn't put everything in here, so I tried to build centers so I could hit like the major spots in here, so then there's not so much that's being left out. And then next over here is the religious center, which I looked at the cathedral in St. Paul and took that and then just put it into Roblox, and then I put like the different churches that serve the Rondo community in there. And as you enter into the church, you have another blurb that tells you about the period of Reconstruction and how like churches helped keep a lot of African Americans grounded. And if you go in, we have like ushers, we have pews, we have like the whole vibe is to look like a church. And so each image is a church that is within the Rondo. So this is St. Philip's Episcopal Church. And then over here we have Robert T. Hickman, who was the first Reverend of Pilgrim Baptist Church. Mm-hmm. And then over here we have Mount Olivet. Over here I decided to add a little choir here, and then Reverend Denzel Angus Carty was the first Reverend of Mount Olivet. And then over here we have St. James AME. Over here we have Camford Memorial Church. And then lastly we have St. Peter Claver. So again, it's like your character gets to go around and see all these different things, and each building has its own theme to it to pay homage to all the different things that were here before the interstate highway had came through. And then thirdly, we have something I didn't get an image from Google, I just decided to use my imagination on this. I tried to create a meeting house. So like it's supposed to like show all the social clubs that were there in Rondo. And so when you go in, it kind of has like a rustic vibe to it. It like gives really like just casual, like people would relax and chill here. That's the vibe I was going for. A lot of these social clubs were either military posts where like veterans would go and hang out, or it's like different people who are part of the community. There's like over here in the corner, this is like women's auxiliary, so like women who supported veterans. And then we have Sterling Club, so these were more like social clubs, and Credit Fund Club. And then this is Twin Star Military Post, the Turtle Club here, and then we have more of the veteran post here. And then I have like some things that give it that veteran look, and also like rustic vending machine, which like you can actually like interact with. So I thought that was pretty cool. And so that's the vibe that this is going for, so you can learn about like the social clubs that serve the Rondo community. And then fourthly, we have what is a convenience store over here, which will show all the businesses, not all, because there was like 300, but some of the major businesses that some of the elders could recall during their time. And so you go in here, you're greeted by a clerk, and then you're also greeted by this more text that tells you about there was more than 300 businesses, but those businesses were lost due to the construction of the highway. And so if you go here, we have more images. Really wanted to give it that convenience store look when you walk in. And so here we have Burger T's Cafe and Tavern. Over here we have Clark Subs. And then back here is more like the barber and hair salon stuff, because those are really integral to the Rondo community. And it gives you a little blurb telling you about the significance of barbershops. And then here we have more NPCs. Wazi was a barber, and then Finney was a hairstylist. And then you have a little of her newspaper clipping over here that tells you, and it gives you a little definition of what hair salons are. Over here we have more restaurants. We have Road Buddies Barbecue, and then lastly we have Russell's Bar and Grill. So I wanted to give a little bar thing over here just to add to the empty space, so it wasn't just like empty wall. But I feel like this is the building I enjoyed doing the most, like creating, just because it was like more fun for me at least, or like I feel like I really was super creative when I was creating this, so it was really fun to do this. And then lastly, we have a schoolhouse to our right, and in here there's like 4 major education buildings that were in Rondo that the elders could recall going to. Little blurb that tells you, it says, where did you go to high school?
I went to Oklahoma Agricultural High School in Clarksville, Mississippi.
Yes.
I was at St. John Vianney High School in elementary school.
I went to Jolie High School in Utah.
I went to Minneapolis Central.
Oh.
Went to Tohoto Regional High School in Boylston, Massachusetts.
The Randy School in Tinton Falls, New Jersey.
So yeah, so these are like 4 major things. A lot of these, except for one, is not existent anymore. Either they have switched to a different school or they just got destroyed. But the only one that is still standing today is Maxfield, which is on our left, which is an elementary school that a lot of the elders went to growing up, and then kids still go to this day because it's still in existence. Over here we have McKinley High School. Over here we have Gordon Parks and Henry Combs. Henry Combs was a basketball coach, and then Gordon Parks, photographer, very famous, and he has his own little school in St. Paul. And then over here we have Marshall High School, and lastly we have Mechanic Arts High School. And so Mechanic Arts, I believe, started in the basement of Central. So Mechanic Arts was like majority was a black high school, and then Central was a white high school, and then like over time, to see that change from it being a white high school to now more with blacks, you can see the change as like when Mechanic Arts had disappeared, then they started integrating it to Central. And then this is more so to give a classroom vibe when you come in. So all these different centers have themes. I didn't want them to be all mono because like it would not be fun if they all looked like the same building with different content inside, so I really put in the time and the effort. And one cool detail I added was these street signs. They all have the street signs that they're not exactly the same coordinates on there, but like if you were to see how you brought back then, it was on Aurora Avenue and Kent Street. And then we have these white signs. These are the commemorative names, so like the people like Reverend Dr. James W. Battle, like the different streets that you would see if you walked through the Rondo neighborhood, you would see these names here because they're commemorative to give back to the people who served the community. And then now, after you visit all, I have like an obnoxiously big sign to let you know, please look at everything on this side before going to the highway, because then it makes more sense and it adds to the story if you do it in chronological order. And so before you do, I have another one of these things that you can collide into, and it tells you the significance of interstate highways being implemented in disjoint communities. So it says, in the 1940s and 60s, the implementation of interstate highways across U.S. cities negatively impacted and disproportionately displaced Black communities like St. Paul Rondo. So we know that this is not only a thing in Rondo, but it happened in many major cities throughout the United States. And then after you read that blurb, then you get to go on the highway. And so I use conveyor belts, so your character can like go straight through the highway, and you see all these cars. So the cool thing about the cars is it tells you exactly where you're going, because you see modern cars, you're going to the present. You see the older cars, going back to the past. So you can go in between both, and then you have a little blurb that tells you if you're going, if you don't catch it first glance. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. The 240 exit is onto Dale, because Dale can take you straight to the Rondo. And then that's my little character up there waving, if you can see it. But yeah, so you keep going down. If you want to like just chill on there, you can, or you can just run off of it if you don't want to wait on there. And then now you're in present day Rondo. And so we can start with Hallie Q. Brown over here. So this is exactly what Hallie Q. Brown looks like, again, using Google Images and then recreating it here. It has the address, and it has my boss, Benny Roberts, over here. I added him to the game. He was very flattered. He was like, you didn't have to. But I was like, I should, because you are currently executive director, so I'm going to put you in here. And then we have two notable women. We have Dorothea Burns and Janabelle Taylor, who are very much impactful to women. So we have Myrtle Carter for past Rondo, and then here present day Rondo, we have Dorothea Burns and Janabelle Taylor. And then when you go in here, you have some of the buildings and some of the organizations that have collabed. So here's again the Google image of what Hallie Q. Brown looks like today. And then if you bump into it, it has a blurb, it has less because it's still the same stuff it did back in 1929. And then we can start over here. I have like little meeting tables to signify the NAACP, and it tells you exactly NAACP. And then churches are still an integral part, even though we see the shift that churches were a central part in past Rondo. Now that kind of shifted, but they're still partner churches like Pilgrim and Camp 4 here. They're still going strong, and they're still connecting with Hallie Q. Brown. And then we have Camp 4 over here. We have Miss Cardi. And then over here we have St. Paul Promise, another organization that collabs with Rondo. The Sherwood Club, which I believe is a music club for youth. And then we have Mr. Thomas here. The Happy Sun is each Hallie Q. Brown Fun in the Sun Camp. They don't have like a logo, so I was just like, Happy Sun, and then put it in here. And Benny was like, yeah, that's perfect. This is the AALC, African American Leadership Committee. They do a lot of like work to like help with kids in education and really like uplifting the youth and other African American members. And I got a scholarship through them, so it was pretty cool. And then with that scholarship, I got membership, so I'm part of their community as well. And then over here we have more churches. We have St. Paul Reformation Lutheran Church. And then second to last, we have Unity Church Unitarian. And then lastly, we have Penumbra Theater Company, which is within the Hallie Q. Brown itself. It used to be called Hallie Q. Brown Theater, but now it's called Penumbra Theater. And the two NPCs that you see here are Mildred and then Captain Gordy. Then after you're done in Hallie Q. Brown, the next building you'll go to is social service. So this is all the services that are provided to the community today. And up here we still have the YWCA. And then I added a picture of like the little sign for the commemorative plaza. Mayor Sells Belton, I believe, was the first woman mayor for Minneapolis or St. Paul.
Yeah, Minneapolis.
Yes. So we added her in here. And then back here we have more of the services. So we have JK Movement for the youth, helping them out. Ujama Place, Walker West Music Academy here. And then Rondo Center of Diverse Expressions. We have the Rondo Community Land Trust. And then lastly, we have Inner City Youth League. So again, same concept of you walking around, seeing these different things. Your character can collide with these walls and you can get more information on these things. And then after you go through social services, we have education, because now we are going to see more educational buildings throughout the Rondo community. And then we have more NPCs. They are really not of significance. These are just random characters I added just for like aesthetic purposes, I would say. And then if you go in here, this is like lunchroom theme now. So we had classroom, now we're in the lunchroom. And we have 4 notable characters: Miss McBee, principal of Central High School, principal of Ayers, forgetting which elementary school, but as a principal at elementary school, Miss Kaiser, and then Dr. Henderson. And then when you go here, we have Maxville, so it's still here in present and in past. We have Central High School. We have Benjamin E. Mays back here, and then we also have Capitol Hill. And then if you run all the way across the cafeteria, you get more, and you can sit down on these tables as well.
Hey.
You're gonna just keep sitting at every table. Okay, I see. I'm gonna move over here. Then we have J.J. Hill, and then it used to be called Webster, but it got renamed to Barack and Michelle Obama Elementary. And then that is the cafeteria that represents the schools that are here. And then we can go over here under the tree. This is the St. Paul Fire Squad. And so we have some notable characters here. We have Captain Brittany, Chief Smith, Captain Gordy, and then Nick Davis. So Captain Gordy you saw back there, these are 2 different Gordys. And then we have Cat over here under the tree. And then we go in here, we have Community Offering. And then this, We Are Rondo is on like the little like bridge walkway that like if you were to walk across the highway on the little bridge, it has like We Are Rondo on there. So I wanted to add it too. And then we have a map here that shows how the neighborhood looked in 1940 before the highway and then after. So you can see that literally took a lot of houses out. And so many African Americans were displaced because of that. And then this is Mayor Melvin Cardin, the first African American mayor of St. Paul. And then over here we have Remembering Rondo. So when we come over here, we have Rondo Days, which is like an event that happens every July where people get together from the Rondo community to remember Rondo and not to soak on the past, but to look at the present and see how vibrant and still the community is thriving, although the highway had destroyed the majority of the community is still going strong. And then Rondo Block Party over here. And then they have the Selby Avenue Jazz Fest. So I have some jazz instruments over here. And then we have Sugar Storm, which is like empowering young women in sports. So they help young women get scholarships to go to college to play sports. Over here, we have the Mechanic Arts versus Central alumni game. So like alumni from both high schools would like go head to head in basketball and see who will win. And then we have the Inner Cities Athletic Association. And then lastly, Central honors Orlando Castillo, who was brutally murdered in police brutality, and they still honor her to this day. So every year in the summertime, I believe they do an honor ceremony for him. And then after you finish this building, the last building we have is the businesses. And so when you come over here, we have another NPC. His name is Lucky, and Lucky is the son of Tiger Jack. So Tiger Jack, he's the only business that is still standing from the past. So all those businesses, when I said there was 300, they did get wiped out or no longer in existence, but Tiger Jack is still there. He fought very hard to keep it there. So like if you were to ever go over by the Rondo, keep going, and then like to get back onto I-94 going like this way, then you'll see like a sign that says like the last standing building in Rondo, Tiger Jack's, very big. And so I have a little like board here that says Jack on here to show significance to him. And then we have patrons out here for like businesses to look like restaurants. And then when you go in, there's a lot of businesses in here. So it tells you about these businesses that came about in the Rondo that are still going strong today. And then Tiger Jack's is right here. So the only business that is still here that was from past Rondo. And so his was like a one-stop shop all kind of store. So it had many different things. It had candy, games, magazines, pretty much anything you can think of in there. Over here we have Two Scoops Ice Cream Eatery. I've had the pleasure to go there and have ice cream during the summer as I worked. It was really good. I enjoyed it. We have the St. Paul Police Department, which we have Officer Debbie. I got to meet her. Her name is Debbie Montgomery, wonderful woman. Officer Mann, and then Officer Brown as well. Over here we have Privilege Barber Lounge. We have Get Gorgeous Beauty and Spa. So a lot of these things you see on these tables are supposed to symbolize what they do inside the building. So like you have like spa things, makeup, that kind of thing. And then over here we have the two restaurants, Golden Time Cafe and then Golden Time Restaurant itself. So Golden Time has the coffees, the teas, and then Golden Time is like the sit-down restaurant where you get a meal together. And then over here, I also visited this place, Lip Esteem. I got in a lip gloss from them. Very great people. Over here we have Celestial Touch Massage. And then we have Bouquets by Carolyn, so a florist. And then lastly, we have E&J's Dry Cleaning over here. And then front and center, we have Earth's Beauty Supply Store and then Shelby Wine and Spirits. Wanted to also showcase that. And then lastly, part of the St. Paul Police Department is Chief Quirky Finney. And then after you kind of explore, that's pretty much it that you get out of the Rondo-Verse so far. And this again was like over the span of 10 weeks, so I was really trying to like hit as many hotspots as I can, putting in information. Because at first I thought I was just gonna add the images and then people can just walk around it, but then I knew that a lot of people probably wouldn't know what those images signify, and it would have been very important and helpful if I added blurbs. So that was the last thing I've added in there. And then overall, it was a great experience, and then the elders loved it, so they were with me throughout the whole thing. We had 2 focus groups, one at the beginning of the project, and then secondly at the end. And as I said before, like I was not sure if they were gonna like this idea because I don't think most of them knew about Roblox, or if they did from their grandchildren. And they were really ecstatic, they were really on board with it. It gave me the confidence I needed to do this project. And I'm so glad at the end that a lot of people loved it and that this was able to serve the community in a way, because I feel like their history is like very important and that it's every day like they're under attack because the city of St. Paul and all the things of the highway and like wanting to like reclaim their history and reclaim the land that was theirs. And so it's very important, and I felt like it was really good that I was able to digitalize their history, that this is something that won't go away for a long time. It'll stay here, and this is kind of like a digital archive for them. So this way they're the next generation of youth that live in Rondo are able to play this game and be like, oh, this is where grandpa or grandpa was here, or my mom or dad was living in this neighborhood and stuff. So like you can keep playing it and still be there. There's also a great way to like educate the youth, because we see them with technology all the time. Now schools have iPads in it, and instead of like being like, no iPads, no this and that, like sometimes you can use it for an advantage, like things like this. Very important, because some of those kids are better at doing tactical, like being hands-on, touching, like doing things like that. And this is a perfect way to teach the kids, because then they have something to remember, they have the visuals, they have the colors. And it's a great way to take what you have in the textbooks and digitalize it and put it here, so then it can be adaptable for anybody. So this way it's not always open your textbooks, like let's open Roblox and learn about Rondo. So thought it was a pretty good experience, and yeah, all in all, I loved it, and I'm glad I got to share it with everyone.
Thank you.